It's funny how purchasing a few plants can change your entire life. This is the story of Plantman P.
What's up, y'all? My name is John, and I also go by Plantman P. I am one half of it. Together, my wife and I are the owners of Plantman P. My wife is normally behind the scenes and doing other stuff just to pretty much kind of get into the whole conversation. I never really thought Plantman P would be what it is today, which is why, ironically, it's called Plantman P when there's also a woman. People just think it's me, but it's also my wife. I'll just start from the beginning for people that don't know me at all. Probably your first time watching this video, so we'll go ahead and talk about it. My name is John. I'm from Tampa. I moved out here in LA, I would say 2015. It's actually gonna be 10 years in November that I've been in LA. In 2019, my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, we lived in K-Town. We thought we were doing it up. You know, we had a millennial gray, as they would say, apartment in K-Town. Gray floors, gray couch, gray rug. We have like, everything was pretty much black, gray, and white. So we thought we were doing it up. We actually, were enjoying it. One day we were at Home Depot and we went to get a weather strip for the front door of the apartment. We passed by the garden section and we're like, maybe this is the pop of color that we need. So I remember we copped a dumb cane, and that was literally my first plant and also hers as well, for like, just for us having one together. And I remember just like not knowing what to do. I was just so enamored by the way it looked. Just one plant made the crib feel so alive and just so vibrant and warm, and I didn't know how to care for it at all. So every day, literally every time I walked by, I would water it. I would just think that it needs more than what it needs. And I feel like a lot of people still to this day that are especially getting into houseplants for the first time were thinking the same thing I was. And it was like, I don't know, you just felt like you had to do something every single second for that plant, especially myself. And eventually I was playing 2K at the crib by myself. It literally just tipped over and just like fell over on the pot, loud as hell. I was by myself. I was so scared. Looked over, because we had it by our TV. I looked over, that shit is just slumped over. Man, that shit was crazy. But obviously I've learned since then. That was our first plant. That's pretty much what sparked the interest of us getting into houseplants. And then we went to the Rose Bowl and we copped maybe, I don't know, I want to say like 4 more plants, 4 to 6, I don't know. And then we're like, all right, now we're invested. Like, we're really invested in this shit. And like, I just really love the feeling it gave me. And again, this was 2019. So, I mean, obviously houseplants were more popular since pretty much the beginning of damn time, but especially around then, for social media wise, there was not really that much of a following. And there especially wasn't a person of color doing this shit, other than like Hilton Carter and crazy plant guy from Toronto. There was nobody like me doing this shit. I never really got privy to it. I never really understood it. I remember my dad, he used to have some cactus and euphorbia, and he would always be around the outside of the house, like watering or doing something. And I would always be like I would never understand as to why he was so so into it. And I never really understood it. At that time, I never really cared to either. Once I got into it, like, literally my whole life changed. Like, I was just so, I don't know, it was just a feeling that it gave me that I just wanted to dive into more. So after those, we copped a big amount of plants. After a while, we started yelping spots to go to, and again, around that time there was not that many. So we found this spot called Rainbow in Chinatown. It's no longer in Chinatown. It's in Rosemead, I believe now. They just opened up, but shout out to Elton, man. He truly like further enhanced my love for houseplants and my passion for them. And without him, like, I probably wouldn't, know the stuff that I know now and know as much as well. He pretty much just changed everything as well. Like, he answered every question, I know they say no question is a dumb question, but boy, was I asking some dumb questions that, everybody pretty much asks, especially when they first get into houseplants. It's like, oh, how often do I water? Like, what water do I use? And just like, answering or asking the craziest questions. He was so patient with us and always looked out and always helped out from, when we first started to us actually starting our plant business. He was always there. And now he opened up a new spot. He unfortunately got out. He had to leave his spot in Chinatown because of the whole basically gentrification type shit. Us starting to go to Rainbow is what pretty much just catapulted everything. One plant, that one dumb cane turned into over 100 houseplants at one time. Like I said, that pretty much is what, kind of started it. And as far as, getting involved in social, pretty much the social media side of it, my personal Instagram was, Snowman P. And then I remember Geraldine's brother, Jared, he was like, once we started getting plants, he was like, oh, bro, you're no longer Snowman P, you're Plantman P. And I was just like, I'll be honest, bro. So I don't know if I made the Instagram right after that, but pretty much I made the Instagram at one point, 2019. My whole idea was just to essentially track the growth of the plant. So like I would cop a plant, I would just take a picture and then just not necessarily like think about it. I would just, it was just for like a memory to look back and be like, oh, like, wow, like, it's been a month and this is how many leaves it got, this is how much taller it is and shit like that. It was never intended for it to be this big, which I'm grateful for. But yeah, so that's how the Instagram started. And then we started just posting more stuff. And at that time, 2019, Geraldine and I were sharing Plantman P, the Instagram. And then it started getting bigger. I remember the first post that went like viral was we caught 4 plants at one time and I photoshopped Geraldine with 4 arms. That was when I realized like, all right, I might have something in my hands. So that's when I actually started taking it a little bit more serious. And then to get into the kind of business side of things, streetwear was my background. I've been in the streetwear for, since 9th grade, and I've just always loved it. And entrepreneurship in general, I've always really loved that aspect of things. I remember we were saying that when we hit 300 followers on YouTube or 300 followers on Instagram and 100 followers on YouTube, we're gonna drop some merch. I never thought I was gonna get that many followers and subs. Like, I was just like, nah. Like, I remember the 100 subs on YouTube was so that I can change my .com to youtube.com/PlantmanP. Like, I thought that was like the dopest shit to actually have like a custom URL. And I don't know if they still do it, but that was the requirement, was 100 subs. So that's pretty much why I did 100 subs, 300. I have no idea why. I think maybe I was getting close to 300. I probably had like 1 something, I don't know. Yeah, I remember doing 300 followers on Instagram and 100 subs on YouTube. We're gonna drop merch. So our first merch, I'll pull it up on the screen, but it was like Austin Powers' face on a cactus and it said, "Do I make you thorny?" I thought it was corny, but I also thought it was funny as hell, and people loved it. Like, people really, gravitated towards it and thought it was the funniest shit. So after a while, I was like, you know what, like, people like this, let me actually put some more effort into it and, bring in my streetwear background and the designing and all that shit. So that's what I did. I remember, we did a couple more drops since then. Shout out to my boy Ryan. At that point, he was designing for us and we were, kind of consistent when it came to that. We did a plant mom, plant dad. That one also did pretty well for us. And then the biggest drop that we did was the plants logo, the LA Dodgers logo with the word plants attached to it. A lot of people bit that shit, I'm not gonna lie. It bothered me at first, but truthfully, I don't really, I don't own this shit, and also I can't really do much. So it's whatever now. Like, I'm not really tripping on it. But at the time, I remember Googling it and the idea was so good that there was no way that I came up with it by myself. So I was like doubting myself, like trying to Google it and search it and see like if it was made before, and it wasn't. So I was just like, you know what, like, all right, this is my time. Like, let me do it. So at that time, I was working at a bank. I was working at a bank for 7 years around that time. I think my whole tenure at a bank was 7 years. In Tampa, I was working at a bank, and then I transferred out here to work at a bank as well. And I remember just sitting at my desk the entire time of me working at a bank. I'm always trying to figure out ways to make extra money, or just like that entrepreneur side of me, like, what can I do? After a while, I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to figure out how to get out of banking because I just wanted more. Basically, I remember sitting at my desk, I came up with the design, I Googled it thinking there's no way this hasn't been made before, and lo and behold, I was the first one to do it. So I knew that at that point, I needed to drop it. So this was in 2020, and this is when shit started getting real. So 2020 happened, this was in March. I remember March 11th, I believe it was a Wednesday, I got let go from my job. It was raining in LA, and normally never rains here, so like, that was one weird thing. Geraldine and I used to commute. We used to work a block away from each other. So we were commuting, and we were driving back home, but I had to make a stop to cash my last check. I told her, I was like, oh, well, I got fired, blah, blah. She's tripping. And for some reason, I'm not tripping. Like, it was also raining. And like, for me, like, I think of rain as like a spiritual kind of thing. And like, I don't know if the rain during that time was important because it was just kind of washing away the past and kind of washing away worry and doubt and stuff like that. That day I cashed my check, went to the Bank of America. I'm not tripping at all. Like, I'm so calm. It was actually kind of weird. And not to sound whatever, but like that March 11th, I got let go. March 13th, which was Friday the 13th, we were doing a drop of the plants hats for the first time. I remember doing it, and again, to what I was saying, not to sound like whatever, but in a couple hours, I made what I would have made in a month working at the job at the bank. And I made that online with my own idea, with my own, passion and just ideas and creativity. And I was just like, yo, what is this? That whole time, I just felt like at that point, God was like, all right, man, like, I'm giving you this alley-oop, and you either gotta dunk it or you're gonna miss, like whichever one. I took it, I dunked it, I did what I was supposed to do, but at the same time, I was also trying to, look for a job. I felt like that was what you were supposed to do. Like, we're taught to, have a paycheck and a steady income, blah, blah, blah. Not only like, with the success of the release and with the success of what Plant Man P was up to then, I still was trying to look for a job. And I remember applying to 50, 60, literally like so many spots on Indeed, like everything. And even Geraldine's brother, Jarek, he works in HR. I gave him my resume. I was like, bro, like, suit me up, like, put in all the trigger words and do it all. All those jobs I applied for, I got a call back from 0. So I was talking to him like, bro, what should I do? And he was like, maybe this is what you're supposed to do. Like, Plant Man P is what you're supposed to do. That's what happened. I just took it. After a while, I just took it and ran with it. And ever since May 29th of 2020, I've been self-employed. By the grace of God, this is where I'm at now. And what we do now is we plant style, we source, we pretty much, I want to be like the go-to person in LA for houseplants. And one thing with what I do is, I try to stay true to myself and stay true to the core of my beliefs and what Geraldine and I believe in and what we want to achieve. 2021, so we were doing streetwear for a minute. We're riding off of that because that was what was giving us the monetary, the money and the tool. I use money and look at money as a tool to fuel the things that I want to do. That's how we're paying the bills and shit. So we're really like going with the merch full force. And 2021 was pretty dope for us. We got a shoot with Hasnabadi and H&M. They reached out, they gave us 100 blanks and basically gave us the full creative freedom to do whatever we want. And then right after that, Complex hit us up to do ComplexCon. At that time, especially because the world just pretty much kind of opened back up after COVID-19. We never really thought about doing markets or pop-ups or whatever the case is. So when they hit us up, first I thought it was a scam. I was like, man, ain't no way Complex is hitting us up, like talking about, oh, we want to invite you to ComplexCon. Like, yeah, right. So that was one thing. But I actually ended up finding out it was real. Then it was just like so many things, great things leading up to that. 2022, we did it again. So streetwear was pretty much doing what it was supposed to do for us. And then after a while, I kind of not lost interest, but wanted to do more. Then we went back to our roots, pun intended, of houseplants. And this was, I want to say, probably last year, 2024, we started doing more of the pop-ups and things like that. We started selling plants. So to circle back real quick, ComplexCon 2021 was the first time we ever sold anything, let alone houseplant. And then I think that's what, like, I was like, bro, like, people actually want to buy plants. Like, it was cool to be able to teach them. And we actually had a potting bed in our booth, and we were teaching people how to pot plants, and we had the plants, and bro, it was really dope. So I think that's pretty much what sparked it about selling plants. Then we did the pop-ups, like I said, the markets and all that stuff. And then the streetwear thing kind of, I wanted more, because at that point we were trying to like do it for a check type shit. And although I do have a passion for it, it was just like, I don't know, it wasn't fueling me spiritually. So we went back to the plants, and ever since then, I swear, like, things started taking off, and things have been taken off for the better. And we've been, so happy, and so many great things have happened since then. And it's pretty wild how a hobby like houseplants, you buying one plant at Home Depot and innocently starting an Instagram, not thinking much, could turn into what it is today. Like, if you would have told me when I lived in Tampa fucking 15 years ago, 20 years ago, like, bro, you're gonna become Plant Man P, and you're gonna have your plants in shops, and you're gonna do ComplexCon. I mean, I always wanted to do ComplexCon, but I didn't know it was gonna be because of this. If you would have told me that back then, I would be like, yeah, right, like, ain't no way, like, not that there's nothing against houseplants, obviously, but like, I would have never thought I would have been into plants. So this is gonna be, what, the 7th year of Plant Man P coming up, and it's just crazy how much things have been coming. So many things have been, pun intended, growing for us. And I'm so grateful for, not only is the clothes a part of our income and what we do, but also the sourcing and the styling of people's houses and businesses and things like that, and just bringing a new sense of life into their home. Like, that shit is so dope and rewarding. And then us doing like workshops and stuff. We do workshops where we teach kids, corporate offices, basically any walk of life, how to care for, repot, and take care of your plant. And I think that's really dope that we're able to do that, because essentially I would love to be able to spread my knowledge and my experience and my passion for houseplants with everybody. Anybody who wants to listen, I'm gonna share it. So I think it's really dope that I get to call this work and I get to do this for a living. I think that's so just rewarding that I'm able to do that. And I'm grateful to have been able to find houseplants and to be able to do this for a living. Not many people get to do what they love for a living, let alone do what they love, period. I think it's really cool. Like, I obviously can see how blessed I am, and I never take it for granted. I never take what I do for granted. And the dopest part about it is the fact that I'm so passionate about it. Like, it's so crazy that I'm able to do this. And I just wanted to hop on here and give you guys a story, because I always get questions about, how we started, what was our first plan, and, how we got into it. And I pretty much wanted to address all of it in this video. During that time of me getting into plants, there wasn't, like I said, wasn't many people of color doing this shit. So like, it's not that I felt embarrassed, but it was more so like, I kind of wanted to keep it to myself because I didn't know how people would react. I remember like not telling the homies about it. And then some of them will find out on their own, or like I would tell them and they'd be like, bro, I already knew, like I already saw the Instagram or whatever the case is due to the algorithm and shit. It was kind of something that I was just nervous about telling other people, because it was such like a niche hobby. It still is, but way more so back then. It was just so niche, and I didn't want to seem like a freaking loser at the time, but I am so glad I'm that loser. I hope that people look at that and be like, or look at my Instagram or whatever the case is, and people that I've talked to back then, I hope I've inspired them to get a damn plant, because when getting one houseplant literally changed my life. So get a houseplant if you need some change in your life, for sure. So we're gonna break this into segments. Early beginnings. Do you remember the first plant you bought? That was my dumb cane. Like I said, bought it from Home Depot, watered it every day, didn't really know exactly what I was doing. I remember the water just being the soil being so moist, because I literally thought I was supposed to do something for it every day. Tipped over when I was playing 2K. Like, I could literally pick it up and the roots were still inside the pot. That's how root rotted it was. Like, it was pretty funny. What made you want to get a plant in the first place? Like I said, I pretty much addressed all of these questions already during my spiel, but Geraldine and I, we had that millennial gray apartment and we were just looking for a pop of color. Just so happened to go to Home Depot, hit the little garden section. I saw that dumb cane and just the foliage, just something, I was attracted to it. Her and I together, we were both attracted to it. We both picked that plant. We literally there was no debate. It was just, we both saw it. Let's get that one, brought it to the crib, and who knew that decision would turn into this. Did you grow up around plants, or was it something you discovered later? Like I said, my dad, he had euphorbias and cactus and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure like 99%, I'm gonna double check with my mom, but I'm like 99% sure we didn't have any plants in the crib, but I remember having plants outside. I would see him do it like subconsciously, but I never really thought about it. But now that I have a bunch of cactus of my own and euphorbias of my own, I knew exactly what he was doing, and it was dope to be around it and kind of have that memory, and then having all of these plants and doing it with myself. And this part is called the turning point, and this question is, when did you realize plants were becoming your thing? I started YouTube specifically because when I would go on YouTube to try to figure out how to care for a plant, it was people that didn't look like me and people that didn't talk like me and people that I just did not understand, and I had no idea what they were saying. And on top of that, they were also like saying the scientific names of plants and calling them by their scientific name and just using words that I could not understand. So I remember YouTube honestly just started as a joke. Like, it was just like, if you go back to my first video, you will see like how serious I took YouTube. But I feel like if you do things that you're supposed to do, like even unknowingly, you're gonna get to where you gotta go if God has that plan for you. But I started YouTube so I could, one, learn about houseplants, but two, teach people that look like me about houseplants as well. I just wanted to also document my journey so I can look back. Again, like if I look right now at my older YouTube videos, there's videos of me hunting for plants that are in quotes rare back then that are super common now. And it was just like the joy and the innocence of not knowing shit about plants and just like finding that plant, you know, just plant hunting. Like I think that was super cool. I still do it till this day, but it was just really cool to document it, and especially the fact that I'm able to look back on it. I think that's super dope. You know, I think that picture was when I realized, all right, like plants really might be my thing. And just like even just copping the dump cane, I thought also like it was just something that changed in me, that I was like, yo, like I really like plants. Were people around you into it too, or did they think you were tripping? You know, when I first got into it, nobody that looked like me was into it. My friends weren't into it. I was pretty much the only person that was into plants. And, you know, I kind of, like I said, I touched base on it. I kind of like didn't really tell anybody about it. Not that I was embarrassed, but it was more so like, I don't know, I just didn't want nobody to know about my little weird obsession with plants. So people were definitely tripping for sure. And this part is called the learning curve. How did you learn to actually care for them? Just pretty much trial and error, and also asking Elton questions, and also YouTubing what I didn't know, but pretty much trial and error and asking Elton. He helped out a lot, and just figuring out also like, so I can, when I have these workshops and I teach people about houseplants, you know, one thing you got to realize is everybody's apartment or home or wherever they live, it's different. So, you know, I can give you advice, but it might not work for you because you don't live in the same spot I live in. So the environment is different, you know, how cold or hot you keep it, and you know, whatever window or way the sun is facing, the direction the sun's facing, all that applies. So like I can tell you something and it might not work for you. So what really allowed me to figure it out was just trial and error and seeing what truly worked for me and what didn't. So I think once you develop your own relationship with plants, that's when you really start getting into it and start, you know, kind of fine tuning what works for you and what doesn't. How did styling spaces with plants become part of your identity? Honestly, I kind of owe a lot of that to the homie Dylan. He was the one that pretty much kind of got us, or got me the confidence to start doing it a lot more. One, he would, you know, hit us up and, you know, ask to get plants for him. And then two, like he would always just refer us to homies and people that he knew, and you know, that kind of grew into that. Prior to him, we were doing it here and there. We did a couple of clients and a couple of, you know, restaurants or whatever, but I never really thought to take it serious until Dylan kept like kind of low-key pushing us like, bro, like you guys got something here. So we never really marketed it or advertised it until that point, but I feel like he was the person that kind of pushed us into, all right, like, you know, maybe I am a plant stylist, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe I should do this for a living, and I should add this to the resume of, you know, the arsenal of things that I do. And I think he really is a person that started that for us for sure. And what made you realize you were good at it? I mean, I guess the reactions that I get from you guys, personally, it's just a feeling that I get. Like, it's not really about being good or bad at something. It's more so like a spiritual thing. Like it spiritually makes me feel good and mentally makes me feel good. So that's what matters about everything. That supersedes all of, you know, the good, the bad, the personal, or the social or the outside perspective. It just really matters about the inside, and it makes me feel good doing anything with plants. Just repotting it right here, let alone doing it for a living. So I guess what made me realize I'm good at it is just the feeling that I felt, or the feeling that I always feel inside. And this part is called reflection. So the first question is, what have plants taught you about yourself? Man, this could be a whole nother video within itself. So I'm gonna keep it like kind of sweet and short. But there's so many similarities with humans and plants. And one of the biggest ones, especially when I first started, especially when, you know, during that time, Geraldine and I just started to get together, and we were just starting to figure things out as adults and as a couple. I was also trying to figure shit out by myself. Like, you gotta remember, I moved from Tampa to LA across the country with nobody, just, you know, homies that I ended up moving in with. It was like me finding myself. And the coolest thing about having plants, especially, you know, being able to reflect, is, you know, the dopest thing is when you have a plant, that plant is unique to you, and nobody has that plant, and nobody can, you know, replicate your environment and the plant's environment either. So it's a unique one-of-one plant. So, you know, being on social media, especially now, especially, you know, just social media in general, but at that time, I would look at, like, for example, a pothos and be like, damn, like, you know, I would get like a little 4-inch, not even trailing yet, but I'll just be like, damn, I'll see so-and-so's plant thriving, and I'm like, damn, why doesn't mine look like that? Like, you know, I wish mine would look like that. And eventually mine did look like that. So basically what plants really taught me is patience, understanding that you are unique to your circumstances, your situation, and you are essentially a one of one. Nobody will, do what you do. And even if they try, they can't do what you do because they are not you. But patience is pretty much the biggest thing. Like, growth takes time, it truly does. And you really gotta go and grow at your own pace. And just once you have that relationship once you have an understanding of that, like, I feel like, you can kind of understand yourself a little bit better. And I just feel like another thing is kind of don't necessarily compare yourself to others, because, like, for example, you could have a pothos front facing the camera and that shit could be doing it up, doing numbers and long as hell on the front, but when you turn it around, it's bald as hell in the back. So, like, it's all perception. And I just feel like you should kind of just focus on yourself and focus on what you do, and the rest will follow. Kind of put your head down and grind and hustle, and just like kind of cancel out all the noise and just do what you do what you love, do what makes you happy. And you might not gain the success as so-and-so, or your plant might not be as long as so-and-so, but as long as you're happy, that's what's truly important. And we all have our own definitions of success and happiness and growth and plant goals and shit like that. So I feel like once we all get an understanding of that, we'll be all right. But like, that's truly what plants taught me. And I feel like, it's really important to understand that and kind of understand yourself as well. How do you want people to feel when they bring plants into their own homes? When Geraldine and I would come home from, our 9 to 5 or just anywhere, we would come back into our home filled with our 100 plants and just like feel like we're stepping into our own personal oasis. And that's what I want people to know. What they're creating is that personal oasis. And two, just like, here's a big thing. Let me put my phone down for this. Let me get comfortable. The biggest thing I feel like when it comes to this is like, don't buy a plant just because it's popular on the internet. You can buy a pothos. I keep saying pothos because that's like one of the most common plants, but you can buy a monstera. And if that's what you want, that's the coolest plant ever. Like, who cares about what so-and-so is doing it up with a pot and planter and how they got it staged and how big it is and how cool it looks and this and that and how unique and whatever it is. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, what matters is just how that plant makes you feel. Like, you don't have to chase the biggest, especially back in the day, like the Thai constellations and the variegated whatever the hell is. Like, you don't have to chase that. Like, what you can chase is the most common plants, a snake plant, pothos, a philodendron, whatever the hell it is. And if that makes you happy, that's what's important. And what I would want people to do is, know that they're bringing in their own ecosystem and just like a feeling and a vibe that they're going to be creating in their home. So be intentional and, just don't buy plants just because of the hype. Kind of know that you are going to be caring for something and you are creating something, and it's important to kind of fine tune the things that you are interested in. And, it doesn't matter if it's a common plant or a $1,000 plant, like, it doesn't matter. It's truly what you feel and what you are gravitated towards. That's what you're going to bring into your home. So while you're creating that personal ecosystem and personal oasis, keep that in mind. And the last question is, looking back, what would you tell that version of yourself who bought your first plant? Don't overwater that shit, bro. It's not that complicated. Plants don't need water every day. Obviously, I didn't know that at that time, but I feel like just to circle back to today and kind of what we do with Plant P is we make plant care as simple as possible. Plant care made simple is one of our little slogans. Now that I've gotten to where I am with houseplants and I have learned with, trial by error type shit, that's what we're supposed to do, is make plant care simple. And that person in 2019 that bought that one plant, he didn't know he was supposed to water it every day. So I kind of want to make, plant care as accessible and super understanding to anybody with what I do with my content. And I would tell that person, like, bro, you're about to go into something so crazy. Like, you're about to get addicted to this stuff. And it's funny because people buy their first plant from us. I joke around and tell them, I'm not responsible for your addiction after this. But it's funny because, like, as soon as I bought that one plant, like, I needed more. So things I would tell that dude is, don't overcomplicate this shit. You're about to be addicted to houseplants and your life is about to change. So yeah, y'all, that's it. That's kind of my story, questions that I've answered, and I kind of gave you guys just pretty much everything in between. I could have went into more detail, but this video is already long as hell. I just wanted to kind of give you guys, you know, kind of pointers and bullets of the timeline of Plantman P and kind of let you guys understand what we started or how we started, why we started, and where we are right now. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know in the comments and I'll answer those in a separate video. Appreciate y'all watching. And again, if you have any other questions, just let me know and we'll get to them. Peace.